Recognize Congressman Carter for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Lewin. Mr. Chairman, thank you for allowing me to waive on your committee today and for considering my bill, H.R. 8704. The bill would first and foremost stop NOAA from finalizing the expanded vessel speed restriction rule first proposed in 2022, keeping the current rules in place. NOAA is proposing to broaden the Atlantic right whale strike reduction rule by requiring vessels 35 to 65 feet in length to maintain a speed of roughly 11.5 miles per hour when in waters inhabited by right whales. The proposed rule would cause grave safety issues for recreational vessels and pilot vessels alike, as it presents a safety concern for traversing the shipping channels and safety issues at sea. You can imagine trying to drive a boat in the sea at 11.5 miles per hour. I mean, it's just dangerous to think about it. Second, it creates a new grant program to encourage the development and employment of technology to reduce vessel strikes of endangered species like the North Atlantic right whale. This is important because there are technological innovations available, and I want to stress that. I'm not just offering something to stop something. I'm offering solutions to it. We care about the right whales. We need to protect the right whales, but we have to balance that with public safety and the needs for our coastal shipping economy. For example, buoys with sensors to help detect these whales have already been placed off Georgia's coast. Technology can play a key role in balancing the safety of both the right whale and boaters as well as our coastal economy. This bill will allow us to expand use of those solutions. Unfortunately, if this rule goes into effect, boaters who use 35-foot or larger vessels will simply not take fishing trips, and the market will die for these kinds of vessels. That's why the rule threatens 27,000 direct and indirect jobs in Georgia alone, related to recreational fishing and boating. I have significant concerns about how this will impact the state's recreational boating industry, which has an annual impact of $4.3 billion. NOAA's calculations for determining projected economic impacts of their rule are just wrong. They're flat out wrong. To start, it estimates that this rule would make an economic impact of only $47 million. Suffice it to say, we all know in this room that is more like $47 billion. In fact, estimates say that nearly $84 billion in negative impacts in jeopardizing Americans' 340,000 jobs. 340,000 jobs. It does not consider the differences in hull design between recreational and commercial vessels. Using NOAA's own data, the chance that a recreational vessel will strike a right whale is less than 1 in a million. Less than 1 in a million. There's bipartisan agreement that we can protect the endangered right whales without harming our ports and coastal communities. And we want to protect the right whales. I don't know of any boater who wants to hit a right whale. We want to protect them. Harbor pilots must be considered in the crafting of this rule. I'm very concerned for both their safety and the port's overall operations. That's why I'm very pleased to have my good friend, former staffer here in Washington, Jamie McCurry from the Georgia Ports Authority here today to testify on the impact this rule can have on our nation's ports. The ports of Brunswick and Savannah, in my district, I represent the entire coast of Georgia, 2 major seaports, the Port of Savannah, the Port of Brunswick. The Port of Savannah is the single largest and fastest growing container terminal in America, in addition to being the second largest port on the East Coast by volume. The Port of Brunswick, the number 2 roll-on, roll-off port in the country. Their success has translated into growth and prosperity throughout the region, and this rule directly jeopardizes that. Communities like ours depend on the ocean for our livelihoods. There's bipartisan agreement that we can protect the endangered right whales without harming our ports and coastal communities. I want to share a story with you, Mr. Chairman. I was in Canada last year, and we were hearing from Meta Canada, and they were telling me, they said, we can identify species in the wild. And I asked them, I said, wait a minute, can you identify right whales in the wild? And they said, sure we can. I said, do you have to tag them? They said, no, we got the technology now. We can tell you where they're at. We are not just saying we don't want to protect the right whales. We do want to protect the right whales, and that's what this bill does, because it offers solutions that won't destroy our recreational fishing, and solutions that won't have a negative economic impact on our ports. Again, thank you, Mr. Chairman, for considering this bill. Thank you for allowing me to wave on, and I yield back.